I was called by your former mayor, and he said, would you call the Olympics? Because I must tell you, the Democrats, as you know, were not calling. They wouldn't do it. I don't know, there was a bad experience somehow. And I did, and I got along great with the Olympic Committee, and we got the Olympics, and then we got you the World Cup. That one I focused on with Gianni. Gianni was great, the head of it. And so you have that coming. And then we have the 250 years coming up, which is going to be a great celebration. But I'll never forget when I got the Olympics, and then I was president when I got them. I said, oh, boy, it's too bad I won't be president. Who knew this was going to happen, right? I said, I won't be president because it would have been the 4 years. And, in fact, I'd be retired by 4 days right now, I guess, right? So anyway, so I got him, and at least I'll be able to celebrate the Olympics, the World Cup, and the 250 years is going to be a very big deal. So we have the three biggest there are, and it was an honor to get. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you have a statement to make, I'd love to have politically, if you'd like to make a statement. Brad, go ahead.
Mr. President.
Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. President, thank you for coming to the 32nd Congressional District and
thank you.
Making feel most people don't have adequate insurance because they couldn't get it. So one company dropped 1,600 policies just in the last 6 months. We've got 16 times as much property damage here as from Hawaii. And I'm hoping that we get at least 16 times the federal appropriation for the CDBG program that helps people rebuild. And I know you've talked about policies of California that you're not a fan of. But I've been in Congress for 28 years. I really disagree with Louisiana on their abortion policy. I disagree with them on their campaign finance policy. I disagree with North Dakota on their gun policy. And I would never turn to somebody from Louisiana and say, you keep living on your cousin's couch because we're not going to help you rebuild until Louisiana agrees with me on a woman's right to choose. So I'm hoping that we can get these funds and that we don't punish individuals for the policies of their state. You can disagree with them, and I think you've got some ideas. I look forward to us listening. Also on tariffs, I often agree with you on tariffs, but how about no tariffs on building materials for the next 3 years?
We'll take a look at that, actually.
Mr. President.
Take a look. Mayor, please.
Yes. First of all, let me just take the opportunity to officially welcome you to Los Angeles. Really appreciate you coming.
All right. President Trump, a little bit of a filibuster there by a Democrat member of Congress, but I got to tell you, I like the vibe. Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation, where the focus is on how things are made better and exposing what makes them worse. And it's good to hear a Democrat saying, look, I don't agree with the policy things, but I do think we should help them when it comes to insurance. And I think you may have some good ideas. I look forward to working with you on it. It's great. It's great. It's also great that Trump is in California, and he had those moments with Newsom. I'll take you through it in a little bit. But we're watching the press conference here. Now Karen Bass is taking through her version of events, not as important to us. So here's my food for thought tonight. We have long known the secret to America's success. In fact, even before America was free. Our highest truth was captured in a revolutionary hymn called the Liberty Song in 1768. The operative phrase was, quote, then join hand in hand, brave Americans all. By uniting, we stand. By dividing, we fall. This has always been our secret sauce. It is what made America great in times of great hardship at home and abroad. And we have also long known the greatest threat to our prosperity. It was not long after that hard-won freedom that our first and arguably greatest president outlined the biggest threat to America. No foreign foe, but a poison we would make and take willingly. Political parties. More specifically, the division they feed on. Washington, in his farewell address, warned of exactly what is happening right now, still, even after the election. The alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, natural to party dissension, is itself a frightful despotism. Moreover, Parties divide to conquer. They do it to conquer the other. And it is this spirit that agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of one part against another, foments occasionally riot and insurrection. Spooky, right? We all know I could write the same, though not as eloquently, about what we've lived in recent years. Now as then, the challenge. To get to a better place, we must change the game. And I believe Americans want this. That's why both parties in Congress have such low approval ratings, and why we had more people move away from parties and vote as independents, more in this past election than ever before. That group, independent voters, is the fastest part of the electorate, the fastest growing part. Tonight, we're going to discuss the incipient immigration roundup efforts in light of some concerns about who's being detained and see if there's a fix. What I'm not going to do is play gotcha and say that because some of the wrong people got swept up, the whole idea sucks. Because if that were the rule, that if anything goes wrong, the whole thing is wrong, nothing ambitious would ever be undertaken. Remember the ACA, Obamacare? Remember when the website was launched and glitched? People are like, this all sucks. It didn't all suck. They didn't abandon the effort. And now there are more people covered than ever. Look, it's far from perfect. ACA needs fixes. But remember why they haven't happened. Republicans have refused, insisting on killing the whole thing until voters sent them a different message. Maybe now they'll fix it. The point is, the interest in division and the advantage perceived in dividing, just making the other side look bad, that is still the greatest ambition of these two parties. Much more powerful than trying to get something done. That's why immigration has stayed a problem for so long. The two parties prefer the problem because they would rather blame it on the other than fix it. So early on here, we need to call out and disrupt the pettiness that just plays to punishing the other side. I have 4 examples that come to mind in our current play, all right? As I already mentioned, Democrats trying to scuttle any effort to collect illegal entrants who've been accused of serious crimes because of what it's going to cost or because of some early mistakes and who was captured is just too harsh. It's too harsh. The problem is too big to just run away from this solution. Second, President Trump denying security to his political enemies, like Fauci and Pompeo. He can say that if anything happens to them now, it's not his responsibility, but he's wrong. And please, don't say it's about the money. We spend so much more on things that matter so much less, okay? We provide an unprecedented amount of security to the Trump family, extended as well, and in extraordinary ways. And by the way, I think it's worth the cost. God forbid anything happens to any of them in this day and age when people are clearly hair trigger when it comes to acting on their ugliest intentions. I felt the same way when Biden wouldn't give Trump more protection before the first assassination attempt. Look it up. I also felt it when Bobby Kennedy wasn't getting security from Biden. Look it up. These parties are too interested in hurting the other instead of helping the country. We have to call it out so it changes. Similarly, the president's going to have a problem with this AI infrastructure bill, and it's one of his own creation. Now, look, the focus should be, what are we giving the big tech bros here? What are we building for them, and what are they going to give us back, right? I love that they love the idea. Of course they do, because they're going to get the government to pay for an infrastructure that they're going to be running a lot of their platforms on and profiting from. But the give back is that AI could be an incredible advancer for medicine. AI could be used to tailor therapeutics and maybe even vaccines to the individual, leading to all kinds of once unimaginable cures. The problem is, the president has helped create an anti-vax mentality among his followers. Look, I know the irony. Trump was the driving force behind the rush development of the COVID vaccine, and he took it himself, and he took the boosters. But now his own people are against the AI medical initiative. This is the danger in selling division. The anti-vax stuff was effective when it was a way of frustrating Biden's efforts to get us through the pandemic, but now Trump is going to have to deal with it. And then there's how the media stokes the flames of division. Now, I'm not talking about podcasts. I mean, these fringe outlets that get their followings, they get paid to be sensational, okay, especially on the right. I'm talking about major outlets fomenting the game of division, sometimes subtly, sometimes ugly and obvious. That's the phrase to me that sums up what's happening over on the Trump propaganda network of Fox News all too often. Listen to this.
Mamala just launched a blog, though, and we clicked on it, and she wants our email address so she can ask us for money. And she needs it because grocery prices are ridiculous. She just found out about inflation. The New York Post caught her grocery shopping with Dougie Fresh. What kind of husband goes grocery shopping with his wife?
What? What does he think? We're living in 1950? I'll tell you who likes to shop with his wife. I do. When I'm not doing the grocery shopping myself, so I guess I'm not that much of a man to Mr. Macho over there with the nice eyebrows. This is just a stupid way to demean Democrats because of misperception that saying demeaning things gains you some kind of advantage. Like, oh, that's woman's work. Really? I'd love to hear what his wife thinks about it. And this isn't a one-off. Watch this one.
Now, I don't see why any man would vote Democrat. It's not the party of virtue, security. It's not the party of strength. It's definitely not the party of family. And to be a man and then vote for a woman just because she's a woman is either childish, that person has mommy issues, or they're just trying to be accepted by other women. And I heard the scientists say the other day that when a man votes for a woman, he actually transitions into a woman.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's what the science says.
Science says that.
Look, I know he's joking, but there's a theme here, right? Scientists say if you vote for a woman, you transition into one. He knows that's not true, or he should. Somebody, like me, raised by a strong mom, 3 powerful sisters, one just got nominated for an Oscar yesterday. I got a wife and 2 daughters who amaze me on a daily basis. This guy knows that using the feminine as weakness is stupid. And that's because the division is so desperate that it's gotten stupid. That literally it's like, you're a girl, you're girly. That's what party politics has become. And look, that's what it's about for them at Fox. They wanted Trump to win. They want the Republicans to win. But just as importantly, they want the division. That's what gets them ratings. And look, this isn't about me picking a fight with an anchor or an outlet, okay? I don't need it. I don't want it. That's not my point. I respect the success at Fox. I started my career there. What I'm saying is the reason NewsNation was built is to call out this division because it only works for the advantage of the players, not for the people. And we have to do better than that. And that's why I'm calling it out, because if we want things to get better, you got to reward people for doing the right thing. What Trump did in California and shaking Newsom's hand, that was the right thing. Okay? I know he doesn't like Newsom. I know Newsom doesn't like him. But he went out there and did the right thing as president of the United States. I don't care how you feel about why he did it. It doesn't matter. Sometimes just doing the right thing, no matter your motivation, is enough. Okay? And I don't care about Melania and the hiding the face, and I don't care about any of that. What I care about is seeing the people that we put in power try to do what we need them to do to get us where we want to be. And that's what matters. And I'm going to call out when people do the right thing. And I think that these early efforts to capture people who are here illegally and have been accused of serious crimes is a worthy effort. They just got to get it right, and the bar is going to be very high. So, something else I'm going to do tonight is that every week, especially here early on, I think it's really important that you guys weigh in on what you're seeing and how you're feeling about it, all right? So we're going to do a big call block tonight where you give me what's working for you and what isn't. And I think that's really important for us to kind of engender that that's the vibe, that's the energy. We want to be working on how things get better, okay? First week in office, he's been doing a lot of things, as expected. His border czar told me last night they've already gotten 1,300 migrants arrested. Today, the Trump administration used military planes to deport dozens of migrants from Texas to Guatemala, and that's going to keep happening. Mexico refused our plane. Now, that's going to be a problem. We'll see what Trump does about that. Now, tonight, as proof of premise that we can do better, when's the last time you saw members of Congress from the two parties on together to talk about anything, let alone how to make something better that they agree on? We have that tonight. Republican Pete Sessions and Democrat Henry Cuellar. It's good to have you both, and I respect very much that you came on together. Thank you for caring about the work of the people more than the parties.
Thank you so much to both of you, and it's always good to see my good friend Pete.
Yeah, it's good to see you both. Hey,
Henry, thank you very much. It's good to be on with you, too. I'm proud to do this, Henry.
Thank you.
Hey, Pete, let me ask you something. What do you think the president's response, what do you think Congress's disposition should be toward Mexico saying you can't land?
Well, Mexico is going to have to find a way to want to welcome its own citizens back because they're going to come. But it's going to also require a little bit of help from members like Henry Cuellar and myself to talk common sense to our friends. We have friends in Mexico. We do a lot of business with Mexico, and it's important to Mexico, and it's important to Texas also. And so as my good friend Al Zaponte, who's president of U.S.-Mexico Chamber, would say, it's in both of our best interests to find a way to make it happen. Just the same thing that you said tonight.
Hey, Henry, what do you say to Democrats who say, look what happened in New Jersey? They caught some people. They rounded up that was supposed to be illegal entrants. They're not illegal entrants. They're citizens. They're veterans. You got to stop this effort. It's going to be a disaster. What do you say to them?
Well, I think you said it well at the beginning. You got to look at the big picture. What we're trying to do is to make sure that we protect the sovereignty of our nation, and that means border security. We just got to be careful when you go in and make sure that we don't profile and pick any Americans, but certainly, we need to make sure that we enforce and anybody that's not supposed to be here, start up with criminals, risk to national security, the 1.3 million final deportation orders that we have of individuals that should have left. Those folks, we should be focusing on them, especially the gangs and the criminals that we have here in the United States.
Pete, you're not going to deport your way out of this problem. You got to work on the flow at the southern border. I don't think the president, by executive order, can get the rule changes and the resources that, as you guys know better than I, the people doing the job on the southern border have been asking for decades. What do you believe is the ambition of Congress to work on those solutions?
It's very clear to me, Chris, that both Henry and I have been on the border. And much of the border wall, I'm sure a huge percent is completed. It is the gaps, it is the holes that are there. Once we complete putting those, the wall complete, then federal law enforcement will change their direction from being someone who simply does all the paperwork to enforcing the law and making sure that we can protect the border. Now, what is the temperature of Congress? The temperature of Congress is we've got to make sure that we also deport those people who come from foreign countries who are adversary to the United States. And perhaps President Trump selected the ones where they are because they needed to go, because it was easy to do that. But we've got a lot of hard work that's got to be done with a lot of other adversaries who had people in this country. There were some 400 people on the terrorist watch list who were already in this country. They allowed them, the Biden administration allowed to come in. And Henry and I have both spoken up about that. Henry's a Democrat, used his common sense, not his wisdom against his party, his common sense to say, that was a bad policy. We now need to go find them.
Henry, we'll end on this. Some of the Democrats voted for the Laken Riley bill, but a lot of them didn't. And the reason for not voting for it is that there is still that amnesty vibe within the Democratic Party, that they believe that there's too much harshness and not enough heart in this policy. I wave away the logistics arguments about what it's going to cost. I frankly, no disrespect, but I don't believe any Democrats or Republicans are that worried about cost when it's something that they want. But what do you say to your fellow party members who say we got to be finding ways to keep these people in this country, not throwing them out?
I think I was the only Democrat on the House side that co-sponsored the legislation because it's common sense. Somebody said, well, Henry, you're anti-immigrant by signing on to this legislation. I said, no, it's not anti-immigrant. It's anti-criminal because we're focusing on the criminals. My father was born in Guerrero, Mexico. He became a legal resident. Took him a long time. Then he became a naturalized citizen, and he came in. Took him a long time, and he followed the law. So, my thing is, if somebody follows the process and they're here, don't break the law, we support them. But if somebody is coming here and has broken the law, then I think that's definitely a different situation that we're looking at. And I think Pete and I, both understand that, look, Pete's a Republican, I'm a Democrat, but we were sent up here not to represent each of those parties. We were sent here to represent our country, our state, and our districts. And that's why we agree on a lot of things together. And like Pete said, we've been to Mexico together. Mexico's the number one trading partner, but they have to take responsibility to make sure that we work on this immigration issue and fentanyl issue also.
Yeah, the fentanyl is huge. We'll see what the interdiction is with the cartels, what shape that takes. People are going right to military, but they're forgetting that designating them as FTOs, foreign terrorist organizations, great access to freezing their assets. And as we all know, organized crime does it for the money. And we'll see how the president utilizes that mechanism. But my brothers, do what you can to get the work of the people done on this issue. You will always have a platform to discuss what's working and what isn't, what the roadblocks are. NewsNation is here for it. Henry Cuellar, Pete Sessions, God bless you both and thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Pete.
Take care, Henry.
Gentlemen, have a good weekend. Take care, fellas. 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Coming up, Republican and a Democrat. Forget about the parties. They both live in a place that needs change. That's what matters. Now, let's talk into the granular with these ICE raids. I'm going to bring in two pros who did the job. How big a deal is what happened in New Jersey? Why did it happen? How do you fix it? How do we know this isn't going to keep happening? This is the boogeyman in the roundups, that you're going to round up all the wrong people and break up families and do more harm than good. Is that true? Two men that have done the job will take us through how it works. And don't forget, big call block. How do you feel about what's happening in the country? And they were wrong. One, okay? Not and other citizens. Newark's mayor calls it egregious. Because of that, and because they were targeting Latinos, that black, white, Filipinos, they were ignored, and the ICE guys only focused on Latinos. And he says that it was proof that all of this has to end. One person? So let's bring in two men that did this job about what you have to be careful about, what it says about the operation in full, and what this means as a piece of solving the immigration problem. John Sandwick, former acting director of ICE, in the Obama administration, and Victor Avila, retired supervisory special agent for ICE. Although, tell me if I'm wrong. First of all, fellas, thank you very much, especially on a Friday night. Appreciate you. Do I have this wrong, John? Because I was chasing this down, and I only have the one veteran from Puerto Rico that they took and messed with his ID, didn't believe his ID. But not that multiple people were swept up who wound up being citizens and shouldn't have been swept up. What do you think the reality of the concern is?
Chris, look, I think the early reporting is always sketchy on these kind of incidents. And so you need to be careful rushing to judgment when you just get that early reporting. Even at the department, I can't tell you how many times we're involved in major incidents where the early reports came in and they were just flat wrong. At the end of the day, I think what happened here was a temporary detention where, and Mr. Avila can explain this as well. When agents come in for officer safety reasons, they need to temporarily detain people, make sure they're not a threat to the officers, determine their identity, and then go forward with the investigation from there. So I think all of this was probably blown a little bit out of proportion.
Mr. Avila, there is another suggestion. That is, you're going into churches, you're going into schools, you're going to be grabbing kids, you're going to be grabbing old women. What is the reality about why you need access to these sensitive venues and what the reality is?
The reality, Chris, and thanks again for having me back, is it's not the location of the per se that you mentioned that are going to be targeted. It's the individuals that are targeted that sometimes go into these locations. And I could tell you firsthand, under the Obama administration, I was ordered to stand down one time to take down a drug trafficker who was also an illegal alien right before I got him out of a classroom at an education establishment at a school. I was literally outside and they said, don't you do it, because President Obama at that time had already started this policy of not going and targeting or arresting illegals in churches, schools, and courthouses and such like that. That's the big difference here, is that those restrictions are gone. And if you're targeting someone and you're looking for someone that runs into a church to seek refuge, that's no longer gonna work. It's not gonna be valid. And I agree with the assessment of when these ICE agents and HSI special agents go out to these scenes, they're going to be questioning a lot of people. That doesn't mean that they're in custody for immigration purposes. I mean, if you're a U.S. citizen, you have nothing to worry about. And if they're asking you for whatever reason, and remember, there's illegal aliens from all over the world here. Whether they look Hispanic, Black, Asian, they're from all over the world. So there's a lot to go through here. And I think that initially, as they're going through the targeting, yes, ICE agents are going to encounter other people that are going to be around the target that possibly are also undocumented. And that's already actually been happening, that they got to make sure they take into custody as well. So John, here's my concern. I want the real bad guys. I want the gangbangers. I want the traffickers. I want the fentanyl mules and the guys who are moving them. They're not really showing up to 9-to-5 jobs, and you're probably not going to find them in school. So are these operations something that can get those guys?
Well, first, to be clear, I don't anticipate that, even though the sensitive locations policy was lifted, that ICE will be doing a lot of operations at schools for the very reason you just said, Chris. You're not going to find those high-value targets in those locations, and one would hope that ICE's willingness to go to schools will be very limited. But you're right. As we go forward with this mass deportation, we've built this infrastructure to deport more people than we've ever seen before, and drawing on the resources of DOD. The temptation is going to be, or the hard part is going to be, how do we find those high value targets? And instead of just grabbing the low hanging fruit, worksite operations like this today can be a very valuable tool for getting a lot of undocumented immigrants, because they're centrally located, they're all together. And so you can send in a team of officers and make a large number of arrests at once. You can get a lot more arrests that way than the more tedious work of kind of doing gang work, where you have to get leads and get informants because they don't show up at a job. So I do think that, operationally it's going to be very important to watch and see how this goes forward. And if we're continuing to engage in tactics that are less likely to get those dangerous criminals, or if we're going to do that more tedious work of getting the bad guys off the street.
I think you got to do both. John, Victor, thank you both very much. As we learn more, I'll bring you up. I'm not going to speculate and hype us through hypotheticals and things that haven't happened yet. As we learn what the reality is on the ground, and as you may know, I asked Holman last night. He hadn't even heard of the New Jersey thing yet when I had him on the show last night. I'll go to these operations. I'll do a series on it. I want the country to be able to see what the reality is about what's being encountered out there by these men and women, and what's making us safer and what isn't. So thank you both very much. To be continued. Best to your families for the weekend.
Thank you.
4 minutes and 30 seconds. We come back. So this AI infrastructure bill, to me, is really, really interesting, because I am fascinated by what AI will mean for our society. And we got it wrong with the internet. We got it wrong, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, with cell phones in terms of infrastructure. I still have lousy cell service where I live. AI, we have to get right. But Trump's got a problem with his base because a lot of them are anti-vaxxers, and in part because of the rhetoric that he enabled, despite the fact that he gave us the vaccine they hate the most. Let's bring in Representative Rich McCormick, okay? A heady lawmaker and a doctor. How does he see this AI medical issue? Is it a plus or a minus? Next. One of the first initiatives for President Trump is a $500 billion idea to motivate AI through infrastructure. What would be the payoff for us? The payoff would be that you would be able to develop tailor-made treatments, therapeutics, and vaccines for people. And you would be able to work on diseases and viruses and illnesses that have long evaded any real type of cure. Let's bring someone in who can speak to the potential here, but also the controversy of it. Georgia Republican Congressman Rich McCormick, a doctor also. It's good to see you, brother. Happy New Year.
Good to see you, too. Thanks for having me on.
What are you, like, hiding in a parking garage? What are you, like, trying to steal a BMW?
This is how much I like you. I left dinner with my son, who just turned 21, just to be out here with you in the middle of dinner. That's how much I like you.
Well, first of all, God bless your son. That is a great milestone. What is the first beverage he's ever had with his dad?
He had a glass of wine, a very nice glass of wine. It's a French Chardonnay that doesn't taste like a typical Chardonnay. And he's a pretty mellow dude. He's not the kind of guy who's going to go out there and get drunk. He's a good boy. I'm lucky blessed with three very healthy, genuinely good men. They're all going to make great husbands and great fathers, and I couldn't be more pleased.
Great for you, Doc. That is beautiful. Thank you very much. I'll make it quick. So what is the potential, first, of AI in the field of medicine for us? Do you believe in what is being suggested?
It's unlimited, really. AI is an extremely powerful tool, not just in the way we treat patients, actually, even in the way we bill. If you think about it, we have some massive problems right now in medicine, the expense in the way that we get 40% of our submissions for ER aren't even reimbursed from these insurance companies. And 4 of the top 10 companies in the United States in profitability are from insurance companies that make a lot of money off us, and yet we're not curing the disease. But when you talk about curing the disease and what AI can do and sensitivity to cancers that right now we don't detect early enough to treat, like pancreatic cancers and some breast cancers, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, things that could be cured if it's caught very, very early. This could be a new way to detect it very early and treat it and actually cure it where we could never do that before.
So what does President Trump do, and how does he enlist the help of Republicans like you to talk to people who, as soon as they hear the word vaccine, say, no way, last thing we want is another vaccine because of how they feel about the COVID vaccine and other vaccines? How does Trump sell them on this?
Well, we have to realize that every treatment, it doesn't matter what it is, when you talk about cancer, the most advanced cancer treatments are immunotherapy. It works kind of like a vaccine, but it's not really. We should call it immunotherapy. In other words, you're training your body to go after these cells that shouldn't be in your body to begin with. Could there be side effects? Of course there could be. But with any medication, any radiation, any kind of chemotherapy, there's always going to be side effects. This one actually has less than most. But of course, there's always going to be risk with any treatment you do. That's the way life is. When you have something that's going to otherwise kill you, this is a way to find a solution that may or may not be as helpful as you want it to be, but at least it gives you a chance, a real chance at the best possible outcome given the technologies we have right now.
Do you think that this can pass Congress, or do you think the anti-vax pressure on the right will get Republicans in a fix?
I don't think it's going to be that. I think what's really going to hold it up is the expense. How do we pay for it? Right now, we're building $1 trillion of debt every 100 days. That is extremely concerning to me. And I want to see the private industry fund this. You're going to make money off of it. You fund it. I want to see right now, the individuals are putting more spaceships up in the stratosphere than all the countries together. This is the time for our individuals to do their own R&D and then benefit off that profitability-wise. I don't think the government needs to foot the bill on this. I'm very, very concerned with anything the government is really advancing through a lot of investments, because that's what the Democrats did, is they picked winners and losers on who they invested with. That means we choose what company gets paid, how much they make. No, thank you. I want to stay out of that business.
Yeah, you wonder why the tech bros were hanging out at the inauguration. Now you got a little bit of an indication. Hey, Doc, I'm going to let you go. God bless your son. When we go to break, I want the producer, let me know where you are. I want to buy you guys dessert. I'm very happy for you and your family.
Happy birthday, Xander. Love you, brother. Hey, appreciate you having me on. God bless you this weekend, too.
Dr. McCormick, I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much. 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Dusty, make sure when we go to break, you get where they are. And let me just call real fast. All right, up next, President Trump just wrapped up his first week. How do you think he's doing? What do you like? What are you worried about? 844-968-7720. So what do you think? Does Hegseth get in? You saw that you had one Republican say that you can't vote for him, but they got a few more votes in their pocket. Maybe you want to ask about it. You can call. Now is your chance. How do you feel about the administration? Dusty, who do you got?
Lots of people that have their opinions. We're going to start with someone you know, Steve Salerno from Vegas.
Oh, my greatest critic. How are you doing, old man?
I'm doing. Hey, Chris, I just got back from shopping for groceries, so I guess I'm in the process of transitioning to female.
Can you believe what a chooch that guy was, saying who shops with their wife? That's the best we can do. Anyway, what's on your mind?
First of all, I want to thank you again for speaking to my class last semester. Everybody, to a man or a woman, said it was the most valuable lesson they had, which I guess speaks to my level of competency. But as to the meat-stoking division, when Obama was first running, I was all caught up in the phenomenon, and I monitor many media in order to be ready for class. And I wrote in a piece that the way Fox treated Obama, God forbid the man shot himself, Fox would probably criticize the caliber of the gun he used to do it. And if anything, the media climate we have now is worse, which is why I want to applaud you and NewsNation for treating Trump's visit to California as a positive. I mean, we don't know his heart, but the act itself seems unambiguously good, and I hope you agree with me. This is a case where optics matter a lot. But I see so many other outlets straining to snipe at his motives or to deflect the subject by turning to something else he's doing that they hate. And with stations all over the map, so much invested in pandering to their audiences, I'm stumped, man, and I deal with this every day in my ethics class. So I ask you, how do we correct? How do we change the fact that the media are locked in this unholy competition for eyeballs, and they're afraid to confront the sensibilities of their audiences? How do we deal with that?
Same way you do with me. Reward me when it's right, punish me when it's wrong. Steve is a mentor of mine. I talk to him all the time. When he doesn't like it, he says, I don't think you should have said that. I think it should be this way. I don't think it's right. And when I do something right, he's saying this now because he's public with you guys, so he's trying to make me look good. But he'll say, this was good. You should do more of that. That's what we have to do. And you should, and more people in the media should do it. But you know what it is. The commodity is the negativity. Anyway, I'll talk to you more about it when I get home tonight. But I love you and I appreciate you.
Good luck.
All right. But, that's the point. That's what Steve's trying to raise in the young journalists is a sensibility, Dusty, that criticism doesn't mean just taking the piss out of somebody all the time. You can tell them when they do it right. And sometimes you encourage it. You learn it in behavioral modification. The best way to get somebody to do something consistently is to reward them when they do the right thing, not punishing them for doing the wrong thing.
You do that with me.
Next.
You do that with me. I get rewarded. Okay,
please,
moving on.
Please.
Jay from Monroe Township, New Jersey.
Jay, what's your question?
Chris, long time, man. I'm going to tell you something. You actually tell it like it is, non-biased. You have my son interested in the news. Myself and my wife have been watching you ever since you've been on NewsNation. And I'm going to tell you something. It is so refreshing. And with what Trump is doing, I got caught up with all the crap, and I see a different person right now. And I honestly think he's really stepping up to the plate. And with you actually explaining everything, too, I think The nation can heal if everybody gets together.
Well, look, Jay, first of all, thank you very much. All good things to you and the family. If I can do anything with the kid, we'll put you back on hold and you get your number to me and I'll talk to your son. But you love your neighbors. You've got people in your community you do stuff for all the time. Politics is the only place we forget that part of ourselves. And we reward all these things you'd never award with your son. You don't ever award at work. And you'd never tolerate with any of your friends. We just have a different set of rules. We got to remember that and course correct by doing, what you're supposed to do, which is demand that they do things for you. See, we just get suckered in. As you said, you got caught up in it. How can you not get caught up in it? It's so seductive. This side is worse. This one is fake on that. This one is bad on that. This one stole on that. It's so much easier for the media, for the people in power, and that's why the parties do it. Everybody makes out well except the collective. It's just got to end, and I think the time is here. I think we're in better shape than people believe. God bless. I'll talk to you soon. Next.
You're such a compassionate guy people don't know. You really are. I was crying to you about something today on the phone, literally crying. And you were so sympathetic. You hung up on... It
wasn't me, by the way.
No, but you did hang up on me because there was a fly you were trying to catch. That you did do. But you are a compassionate guy. The fly was more important, but you're a good guy and a good friend. I wasn't compassionate
to that fly. I almost ate it afterwards to send a message to the other ones. I'm not compassionate. What I am is flawed. And I do not have the same appetite and jealousy of taking people down because I realize I got no business judging them. And that if you really care about getting something better, I mean, you and I have been on teams. We've been parts of so many different things. Nobody shit talks the situation when they want to get to a better place. No. You focus on what gets you to the better place. We've made the commodity the division, and it's just got to stop. And everybody's got an ability to help. This is how we do it. We're watching the U.S. Senate floor right now to see if Hegseth gets the vote or not. I don't think it's going to happen on our watch. You got another call?
Yeah, I do. You did choose the fly over me, but that's okay. Kim from Bloomington, Illinois. Kim.
What's your question?
Hey, Chris. Just wanted to respond to your how Trump is doing first week. I think there was a miss with the J6 pardons, but that does not stop me from supporting him holistically. I was not him to do everything I agree with 100% of the time.
I think that is a very reasonable disposition. I think he did misfire with some of those J6, not all of them, but some of them sent the wrong message and he let the wrong guys out, and it's disrespectful to the guys in blue who he's supposed to be in favor of. But one thing is not everything. You've got the right attitude. Let's try and get some wins here for everybody, not just for him. All right, I got to go, right? The clock just went to zeros.
Oh, and we'll see where we are with this hearing, and we'll pick some more up on the other side of the break.
Dusty does not exist in the world of linear time. She ends things when she feels like it. We'll be right back.